Equity moves in 2025 in the Wichita housing market is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into all that, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those fun things that help grow the channel and get more exposure and all that kind of fun stuff. But I need to start a timer so I don't talk too long. But we're going to talk about kind of where a lot of equity is at, and then how to take advantage of it and what you want to do with that and why you care on that. So first of all, to go over where some of the stats are at, I'll just kind of rattle some of these things off, and then we'll talk about why that's significant and what to do with it. And one of the things to take into account is that over 2/3 of Americans have paid off their mortgage or have at least 50% equity. So 39.3% own their home free and clear. I mean, no mortgage, all they pay is taxes and insurance on it. And so that's a tremendous amount of untapped potential to make a lot of moves, do a lot of things with. For a few different reasons and ways, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But then there's 29.3% of mortgage homes that have greater than 50% equity. So for you doomsdayers or people that think it's going to crash, that's just way too much equity to be able to crash the market. So if anything, people will just sell and they'll cash out before they take a foreclosure or a loss or anything like that. And anymore now, banks have gotten savvy, and the process of getting savvy that like foreclosure is the absolute last resort, worst case scenario, from either creative situations from the lending institution because they don't want to foreclose, they don't want to take the property back, or investors, or ways that we can get the house sold, or different things we can do if people start to get into a hard spot. Now, 31.4% have mortgage homes with less than 50% equity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like they're in a tough spot either. So in a lot of ways, all of this equity that people have from appreciation is really the silver lining to this whole situation and what we're able to still make moves with. So the biggest question I have for you though is how much do you have? Because if you don't know what some of these options can do for you and what you can do for it. Like people that lose their job, fall on hard times, whatnot, their equity can be a saving grace. It's kind of like a cushion or a buffer until you figure the next thing out, as far as what you want to do. And one of the best things you can do to figure out how much equity you have is talk to a real estate agent as far as the equity you have, preferably somebody that's not going to be super salesy and just trying to push you to sell, because selling is not always the option. If anything, you just want to do an equity assessment on your property in a couple of ways. One being like look at the market data, look at what homes are selling for in the area, and generally just what prices are going for in your area, not just on prices, but also a price per square foot perspective. And this is where you really want to get a detailed breakdown of how the home is valued as far as looking at comparable properties in your neighborhood specifically, ideally for that, which that's something we can do for you free of charge, no obligation, no pressure. We also have home valuation tools that are automatic. You don't even have to talk to us, but you kind of get what you would expect with that when it's an automated valuation and it's a process service that comes to you guys free of charge. We're just trying to help you guys out. I use them on my own properties also, just to kind of track things and see what they say and what comes out. But in a lot of ways, the best assessment is reading the market data. It just depends on how serious you are and what you want to do with it on everything. So online valuation tools are helpful. Real estate agent is going to be the most helpful, but you want to look at the market data and what homes are selling for in your area based on a price per square foot. And that's where it really helps you to study and understand why houses are selling for what they sell for and what they're selling for legitimately from a true data perspective, not what you're seeing online for sale or what you're hearing from the headlines or popular opinion, because no offense to any of those people or situations, but they don't know what they're talking about because they don't actually have the sale data and they don't have the record and they haven't really studied in depth on the second thing that I want to bring up, which is the condition of your house and the finishes of your house, because that can dictate how much your house is actually worth, like that will actually sell for, not just what an online valuation tool says or Zillow says or your friend says or what you feel or think it can say. This is where a good agent will come in and be like, if your house was at market condition fixed up, here's what it'd be at. And in the state it's in, with the work you got to do, repairs you got to do, fixes you got to do, updates you got to do, like here's where it's at legitimately. And that's where it can be a little bit harder to assess based on what an agent has experience in and what they've seen. And some of that stuff is just kind of a gut feel instinct thing that comes with that. But there's also a lot of small tips and tricks that like I could help you with, or a good agent could help you with, that make a big impact on your equity and your financial situation, that you don't necessarily have to do all these massive improvements, projects, updating. It's kind of just doing just the right amount to maximize your return on your money and time that you put into your house, so you can get the most out of it, when not just when you sell, but also when you refinance and all these other things you can do with it, which is going to be the second thing I'm going to get into. So I got a bunch of equity. Cool. What can I do with it? You can refinance, you can get a HELOC, you can sell it, you can invest that money into other things, you could remodel, you could put it towards a college fund, you could pay off some things if you get in a hard spot. So this is just a list of some of the things I just rattled off the top of my head. But at the end of the day, all of this equity that Americans have in their houses is their saving grace, it's their retirement, and it is where they can see a lot of options for moving, buying, and selling, depending on whatever your custom personal situation is. The other side of this too is that's a tremendous amount of untapped opportunity for cash flow and cash in our market and in our economy. As far as all the people that are complaining about not enough money go around, or times are tough, times are harder than ever, it's like, sell your house or do something with your equity. Like, you're sitting on a gold mine, not doing anything with it. And part of that is the largest generational wealth transfer that will ever go on in our time to date. Obviously there's going to be a bigger one later with all this, but a lot of America's wealth is sitting in their houses, and it's a lot of outdated houses, people that are either in situations where they need to sell and move, but they won't go to like an assisted living center, or they literally say the phrase, I'm going to die in this house, and they don't want to move. They don't want to do anything else, but they own it free and clear, but it's just not the right time of life yet. And some of these things, as morbid as it sounds, you just got to wait for some people to pass away and for property to transfer into wealth to transfer. And some of that will come to the open market. Some of it will just go to whoever's next in line for the family or what have you. But this is where there's a ton of untapped equity that's kind of sitting dormant in the real estate market in America. Because it's just sitting there doing nothing. Because equity, here's the truth, equity doesn't mean anything until you do something with it. So cool, you got equity, but you got to make moves with it. And that's why I titled this Equity Moves in 2025. You got to assess first, how much do you have, or how much is there out there to go do something with? But then also, what can you do with it? Here's all the ways to make it move, to cash flow it. And I think part of this is more of a modern attitude of investing, and people that are getting ahead is you got to have cash flow and you got to move cash for it to do something. If you're just sitting on equity or you're sitting on wealth, cool, great, but it's just numbers on paper. What are you actually doing with that? Because if it's not growing, it's dying, and really it's just sitting there as an untapped potential that we need that to flow and to be used in our economy and in our society. So there's a bunch of different things you can do with it. As far as with your house, you can refinance it out. You could take a HELOC out, you could sell the house. That is an option, but it's not the only option. Like, I know a lot of realtors try to just push you on is just sell, sell, sell. You could remodel your house, apply it towards your college fund, pay off some things if you got some high interest debt or some other hard times that you're in, tax things, medical bills, what have you. Um, but then if you're an investor or you're an opportunist type like myself, who likes to buy and sell real estate in order to make equity trades, which is ultimately the game you play in real estate, whether you're living in the house or you own as a rental, you're ultimately banking on the equity appreciation of the house. And where you buy and sell and trade those houses is really the difference of getting ahead or not. And for me personally, it's typically what I've seen is in like the mid-range houses. Um, as far as like buying for your personal house, a 150, 200, let it appreciate to 250, 300. Or if you're buying at a distressed property, or property needs some work for like 50 to 70,000, then go and sell it for 150 to 200,000. Those are some of the moves that I like to make a lot. Primarily, I like to coach people to make those moves, especially with your personal house, just because it's more fun with your personal house that you live in and you kind of fix up over time, but doesn't need any crazy big things done to it. As long as the roof's in good shape, the HVAC's in good shape, the panel's in good shape, foundation's in good shape, all the big ticket items are in good shape. A lot of it's just like cosmetic updating or improvements you can do over time that don't break the budget. Some of these things you do on your own, some of it makes more sense to hire out. It's always really fun to put together these equity improvement projects for people on their single family homes. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's one of my biggest pieces of repeat business is buy a house with me. That's a good house. Like one we just bought, actually two of these we just bought. One bought 2 years ago, the other one bought 4 years ago. They bought a $200,000 house with me. I couldn't guarantee how much it's going to appreciate, other than I told them it would appreciate. And I saw a few things that they could do to value add, improve the property. One was put in an egress window, make a few other key improvements. The other one was just literally sit on it, like live in it, because it's already good. And they're both going to be reselling for 300,000. One was 2 years later, the other one was 4 years later. And I can't necessarily tell you for sure that's going to happen, but these are just past success stories of examples where I've coached and advised and guided people to make good buys that are now coming back around to sell, that got a bunch of appreciation. One's moving out of state, the other one just like, I'm buying a bigger, better house because I can. And we made a good buy and I want to, and it makes sense. So it's always fun to do that. But as far as your personal situation, I can't say with the general video. I would have to have a discussion with you, have a conversation, see what your situation is, assess your house, assess your situation, what you want to do there, which I'm more than happy to do. If you just follow the link below to shoot me a message or talk, watch some of my other videos if you want to know Wichita and real estate stuff. But really, I'm just a conversational, approachable person that's no BS, just tells you like it is, just like I would if it was myself. But I can't make all the equity moves in this market, so might as well get paid to give good strategy and advice on all that. Is my legitimate, honest situation. So appreciate you watching this thing. If you've watched all the way to the end, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those fun things, and I'll hopefully talk to you soon. See ya.